particular area, I can call it. And you have
into the second part of this session, listening to ICLEI institution that is a partner, one of the partners, the key partners in the climate and biodiversity agenda for UCLG. And also after ICLEI and Mr. Kumar, will be having the president of the World Forum of Intermediary Cities of UCLG, that is the Mayor Mohamed Sefiani. So, Mr. Kumar, Deputy Secretary General of ICLEI South Asia, how are you envisaging this new normality, and how for you the lessons have been taken from this crisis? The floor is yours. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm trying to, but good to see Shipra. Hi, and also Emilia. Hello. I didn't know that you guys are there initially because nobody has shared me the complete speakers list. And first time I was listening to Dr. Nabaru, who is, I think, a very important point what he has said, which you need to act locally. A simple example, maybe if I have to tell them from my country, Shipra knows about this country, where I live in India. Initially, they were talking about national rules, national coordination with all the states and everything. So all that has been stopped with one single, I'm not against any government or anything, but with a simple order saying that, okay, everything will shut down from tomorrow onwards, and things have not looked into what is really looking for actually. You have a lot of migrant people sitting on road, going through the roads for, I don't know how many of you have seen the articles coming, like a lot of people are traveling 2,000 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers by foot, by road, by cycles and all. So these are the issues which have started, and later on the governments have realized, both national level and provincial level, we cannot superimpose the rules from, I'm sorry, there is a power cut here, but I can continue. There is, we cannot impose the guidelines or rules from the top, from the national level, but you need to act at the local level. Unless until if you do that, you cannot control the situation. So the things have changed. I'm not saying that they don't know these things, but they have not really thought about it when they have taken up those decisions. So that really changed later, which we thought that, okay, you need to act. Even not even at a city level. Right now, we are talking about it at a zonal level. We are talking about it at a street level, how the things will change. Because we cannot even shut the entire city also. Like, okay, if you have cases here, if you have cases in one apartment, in one housing society, you please stop it there itself. Like you make sure that not spread further onto that. So that is one of the issues which has really, I will say, I think all our previous speakers were clearly talking about that has been proven once again, I will say, in the present situation, that without local planning, without regional level planning, you cannot act on various issues on that. So that's one point which has really shown and which has proved again on that thing. The other point which I just want to put it, I think Emilia and Shipra was also talking about, it's not just the cities are creating issues. Cities are part of the solutions also, which has, I think, I learned in my planning when I was studying 25 years back. But it is now again and again and again and again, it's proving that yes, at a city level, city mayors or city political system, city administrative system can also look for solutions. Some of the solutions have come in Indian cities, or also maybe in other Asian cities, what I talk about, are really the solutions for any issue, not just maybe because it has come as a COVID. That's why they have applied these rules and these actions. But any action, if you can really look for a solution at the city level, you can really solve that. And that is actually really help the other cities or other peers to take it forward, to apply into a larger level and implement those actions on that. So that's another point which has proved again and taken it forward on that. And the third point, which I have a presentation, but I'm not showing that here, but I'm just saying some of those points are there in the presentation, which you can share it with all others. That's not an issue, but they can look into. The third point, which is also on the financial issues for the city government. Major worry is that because of these lockdowns and there is no tax revenues have come, and though there are property taxes have actually the cities are collecting that, but the rest of the other taxes which the city is supposed to take it forward has not come at all on that. So what should they do? What should the cities do if you don't have revenues to go ahead and implement actions on ground? I was actually asking some of my colleagues to look into. I was also looking into something. Most of the national governments thought about stimulus packages only to an industries, only to financial institutions and other things. But nowhere I have seen a stimulus package for maybe a local government, a stimulus package maybe for a provincial government. Can you give some money to these people and so that they can go ahead and implement that? Again, I will use the example in India or maybe in some other Asian countries which I have seen. I also heard some African countries, some of my colleagues. These local governments are really asking the national governments, can you help us out? Okay, I can plan, I can take forward my action on ground, but I don't have money. How do I implement these things at this time? Maybe can you give us some money? Can you give us some support, resource support, maybe financial and other resources can do that on that. That's another point of that. I just want to give 2-3 more solutions which I talked about in my presentation. One thing which has really, I think Emilia Shipra was also talking about these things. Intermediary cities, what they are talking about. We are talking about rural-urban platform. Actually, we have tried and tested rural-urban platform, and I called it as a rural-urban platform. A rural-urban platform which we have created in few cities in India has really helped us now at this time. Simple example, when the lockdown happened, some of the cities could not get their essentials. Even vegetables could not come from where, because they are coming from all over some other place. That's not that, because they have not tried and looked at into their rural areas where they can get some of those fruits, some of those vegetables come to a city area, city market, and they can also eat it. They don't need to wait for apples coming from New Zealand or from some other country or some other places within the own country itself. So what really happened is that rural-urban platform has really helped some of the cities in India to plan for food systems, to plan for supplies, also the local supplies. Actually, this is what which also helped on that. And then other things is like within those essentials, going from one area to another area within the city also. And some of the cities, they don't have even plans that, okay, how do I bring where the essentials come into my city and where they will go out from that, and how do they distribute within the cities. So we as ICLEI helped a lot of cities in Asia and including Indian cities to create a supply map, to create a rural urban linkage, like, okay, this is the material available here, you take it and you start consuming it here, and if you need some other material, we can maybe get it from here, get it from there also. So that's one rural-urban platform which has really helped them. And also Indian cities, for the last, I think you must have all heard about the smart cities initiatives started by the government of India. In 45 cities out of 100 have really created command and control center, which may be not a big thing for some of your European cities or some of the US cities. But in Indian system, really that helped now, this command and control center within the city, where a city administrator or a city mayor can sit there and clearly see where the patients are, where the issues are, that actually, so can we plan something locally there so that can help with this thing. So this command and control centers really helped during this particular system. Everybody was thinking maybe a lot of money is going into the system, creating the system, but really the system which helped right now to solve these some of these issues on that. And last point, which maybe I'll stop here and maybe happy to answer some of the points. The cities also now need to look for various other sources. Bad thing, I will say that in some of the Indian systems, Indian governments are really increasing the taxes on maybe liquor or on fuel. Petrol and diesel prices are going up within the cities because the cities are really looking for more money so that they can look into that. But that is, I say that is not the good solution. They have to look for maybe a integrated solution. I think Emilia and some others are also talking about not only the stimulus coming from there, but actually how do maybe a round system, how do the cities can get money from various sources, not just one sources of fuel or liquor or increasing some taxes. That's not going to be useful for them. And they may have to look for maybe bonds, public-private partnerships, all those real tried and tested methodologies which will be useful also at this time of juncture, actually, which can be useful. And other thing which I think some of the again Southeast Asian countries, Indonesia and Philippines, has also seen is how do we maybe it's not just giving the money to the city governments, how do the services can also go through through the people where the need is there. So some sort of a system needs to be created within the city wherein the services can be implemented by monitoring at the city level, but through involving NGOs, involving other civil society organizations, so that the services, the benefits can reach to the migrants and other households really where the need is there on that. So these are the few of the examples which I just want to share it with you, and thank you for offering this slot. Thanks, Emilia, for inviting us, and Camilo, I think he was in touch with me. Thanks for UCLG, for UN Habitat, and all other colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Kumar. Indeed, it looks like India has been, even with the conditions it knows, India has been able to manage with innovative and creative solutions. And in the same sense, India has been positioning a long time ago with the program of smart cities, indeed, and technology today has been key during the COVID, and will surely play a key role as well in the next stages. So let's go now to Mr. Mohamed Sefiani, President of the Forum of Intermediary Cities of UCLG. Mr. Sefiani, one of the big results, the most important results of the World Forum, the first World Forum, was the concept of life systems and how to keep them gathering and building up the resilience through the rural-urban linkages as well, through the food systems, through the climate. So how would you tell us the intermediary cities have been living the COVID, and what should be the place of the intermediary cities for the recovery? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Firdaus. Good to see you. Hello, Emilia, Shipra, and all my friends. First of all, I will thank UN Habitat UCLG for inviting me to this very important webinar. As you know, my city, Chefchaouen, is an intermediary city which is located in the north of Morocco. And until now, it hasn't registered any positive case of contamination of COVID-19. But we can say that more than 70% for economic activities was stopped during more than 3 months. And this situation, zero COVID-19 and activity stopped, is the characteristic of the majority of intermediary cities in Morocco. We have many cases in metropolitan cities like Tangier, Casablanca, Rabat, etc. But the majority of intermediate cities, we don't have that. But we have a very negative impact on the municipality finance, because we stopped the collection of local taxes, and of course the revenue are limited. But the expenses are not stopped, including the compulsory expenses such as employee wages and essential public services. Likewise, we had even given food support to practically 20% of the vulnerable families in the city, and the access to the city was very limited, and it was done on the basis of special authorization. And in terms of neighborhood management, the city has been divided into sectors in neighborhood groups, and access from one geographic area to other was, of course, very limited. In this context, in my city, in many intermediary cities in Morocco, in this context, we had created new neighborhood markets that we say here proximity markets for the marketing of products, especially agricultural food products, which was reached from the surrounding area, rural area of Chefchaouen. I think this rural-urban relationship remained during the pandemic, and many people who came from the rural area to get their supplies at the city level and to benefit from several public services. So I agree with you that 2 years ago we had the UCLG forum of intermediate cities in Chefchaouen, and we have many conclusions. And we believe, I think, and I believe that proximity, solidarity are very important, and especially in intermediate cities, and the intermediate cities can offer that. And the pandemic has shown to us that is one opportunity for us in all the cities, metropolitan and intermediary and very small city. Then we can valorize this relationship, this linkage between rural and urban area. Now we are preparing the new normality, and we believe that the global agenda as the SDG and the climate action and etc. that is very important to show us the route, the right route, with the réajustement. I don't think with the. Yes, you can help me. Restructuring, but in the basis of the SDG. Yes. So now it's very important that intermediate cities can do it. And I know that many in Morocco, in Africa, in all around the world are looking at that, and the linkage between rural and urban area is one of the essential pillars of our new plans of recovery plan. And we are doing that with participatory approach. We are organizing in my city, for example, many meeting, short meeting, digital meeting with consultative institution that we have, participatory institution that we have in the city, to show us in concrete actions that we can implement now in these days, in these weeks, because we have an emergency. especially in economical and social aspects. So to do that is, I said, proximity is important. So to the local products. The local products it's supporting local products, commercialization, marketing of that, and the sensitization of citizens to use local goods, agricultural goods who come from rural area, and the crafts and all local business, local services, all that is very important, because the mobility in our country, the borders, international borders are not open yet, but we can say, for example, in many intermediary cities like Chefchaouen, now we are the cities, the urban citizens, we are 10% only in the province. 90% are rural. So we can bring together one local economic that is sufficient to boost this economic dynamic in this period, critical period. Marketing of local products and ecotourism. Ecotourism for us is very important, and 5 days ago, national governments opened the national and the local tourism. So we can receive now tourists from around Morocco, not around the world yet, but around Morocco. And we have launched one campaign of territorial marketing. With his name is Amazing Chefchaouen Awaits You. It's for tourists and for local investors and for national investors to have a new normality of the cities, of the city, and based on nature and heritage. So people are looking for that now. After 3 months in their homes, they want to discover the nature, discover our heritage, our culture, our gastronomy, our local products, and we can do it without the connection, the real connection with the rural area. And this characteristic not is only for Chefchaouen, but for many cities, intermediate cities in Morocco, many intermediate cities in Africa, many intermediate cities in all around the world. And this now is new for us, because 2 years ago, in our first forum of intermediate cities, we talked about that. It's one of the points of the declaration of the forum, of the UCLG forum. But now people have seen that. And 3 months in our house, 3 months of no economic activity, 3 months of no social activity, but we can do it at local level, at provincial units. In the provincial, we can work with the rural and urban, but we can do it alone, only the city and the rural aspects, but the vertical integration with all with the multi-governance. Now we have many infrastructure projects that we have launched this ultimate days, because we are looking for a normality, a new normality of psychological normality, because when citizens see the projects again of infrastructure, we have great projects with the national support of government, national government support. So it's good for at psychological aspect and for economical aspects. So we have infrastructure, we have so many actions that we will launch in the few days and a few weeks for is integrated into our green recovery plan, and is the promotion and the marketing of the local products to do it at in our places in our touristic area, and to receive national touristic. And I think in 3 or 4 weeks, we will be able to receive international tourism, and our borders, I hope that will be open. So the proximity is one of the potential of intermediary cities, and we see that in this pandemic, with no access to national mobility, no access to international mobility. So is the reality, and is one of the keys of our plan, recovery plan. And we want to work on this aspect and to have a short circuit of consumption, of production, and to valorize the nature, the local culture, the local gastronomy. And I will note that because Chefchaouen, my city, is since 2010 recognized an intangible heritage for UNESCO, for, we can say, the Mediterranean diet is a culture of alimentation in Mediterranean that is based on the local products and local culture of alimentation. I think all that are the pillars of the new normality of the city and the new our plan, recovery plan. And finally, I can say with the support of UCLG, we have elaborated the Chefchaouen Vision 2030 for the implementation and localization of SDG. Thank you for those who worked personally with us and with the support of Emilia and other partners. So now we are working in the actualization of this, because we have a new data, new context, and we have a decade, important decade of this decade to have 2030, but to have other priorities that we discovered in this period. In Morocco, we have one plan. We say the new model of development of Morocco. We have one national commission. We are working on that, but he needs this commission needs 6 months more to do his work, because we have a new context of pandemic, and we have discovered a new priority. So is what we are doing in Chefchaouen, is what we are thinking about the role of intermediate cities is very important in the present, and it will be more important in the next future. Thank you. Thank you very much. I am open to respond to your questions.
Thank you so much, Mayor Sefiani. It's always a pleasure to listen to you and to see how is the ground living indeed the reality. I mean, we at global level, we can have as many theories as we want, but we need to build them from the local, and we need to build them from the ground realities. So otherwise it's not worthwhile to develop anything. I would like to pass on, before going to the questions, Mr. Kumar and Mr. Sefiani, I would like to give the floor to our discussants. So we have as first discussant Oliver Hillel, Program Officer, Convention on Biological Diversity. Mr. Hillel, what would be your takeaways from this session?
Thank you, Firdaus, and thank you to UCLG and UN Habitat for this wonderful discussion. I was really glad to hear Emani and Mayor Sefiani, particularly on the links on nature, because of course I work for the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity. I had 2 comments here. The first is how much urban consumption, the modes of urban consumption, influence the rural landscapes and the coastal landscape and even the ocean management. So by redirecting the design of urban consumption and the rules and modes of production that happen in cities, in fact, we affect ecosystems that are thousands of kilometers away. My home city of Sao Paulo, Brazil, many years ago, stopped buying illegal timber. That reduced deforestation in the Amazon significantly, because all that wood that was harvested illegally was, of course, being bought in Sao Paulo. So this effect on landscape is very important. And the second point, which Mayor Sefiani also so very well noted, is that we need to restart the economy in ways that are different than the ones that we did before. Greta said that, and Georges Monbiot said a bit maybe radically that we should put a do not resuscitate sign on the sectors and subsectors of the economy that have depended so much on subsidies and that have not delivered a sustainable development. So we should put our money now into those that will develop a greener landscape, exactly, for instance, as those connections that Mayor Sefiani mentioned in terms of privileging peri-urban producers and those who can then assure food security and nutrition. Thank you so much.
Yeah, fantastic intervention. It was I personally align completely with your statement, Mr. Hillel. Let's go now to Amin, legal specialist in UN Habitat. Can you tell us your takeaways, please?
Thank you. Thank you very much for all the speakers. It's been a very interesting discussion to follow. And there have been many interesting points that have been raised, so I don't actually know even where to start. I fully agree with Dr. Navarro in his statement that this is a local crisis as much as it is a global crisis. And from that, I would pick one aspect, which is the economic aspect that also Mr. Kumar raised, on where local governments are going to pool the resources for the post-crisis recovery, which I find is a very valid point for, I think, everyone at this stage. And the fact that the poor are the ones who are the most affected, as Dr. Navarro pointed out, but not only because of the conditions they live in, I think, but also because they often get their livelihoods from the informal economy, which has suffered a lot due to the crisis and the restrictions that countries have put to place around the world. And even though at this time the burden is mainly on the national governments to provide the additional grants to subnational governments to finance the expenses related to the social services needs and to support the vulnerable populations, but it would be very useful to explore also other formats, perhaps equity financing or improving self-financing capacity at the subnational levels. But also, I think it would be really worthwhile to look into the mechanisms that can support the informal economy. In general, laws have been among the main contributors to the growth of the informal economy, because often the processes for securing the business licenses, other related permits, they are such cumbersome and costly processes that most poor people can't afford to get into the formal economy. So bringing the local mindsets and the innovation also to the legal frameworks to promote inclusion of workers in the informal sector by mediating the competing demands on urban space, as well as to support a progressive transition to the formal economy by establishing simpler and clearer and more affordable processes would really be needed. And this could help in a way forward. Also, the legal frameworks could extend access to social protection and support microfinancing and financial inclusion programs. And then I have a shorter second point on the inclusiveness. I'd be very curious to know a little bit more from the speakers, for example, from Mayor Sefiani. How have the local governments been able to uphold their commitments to the participation and the citizen oversight mechanisms at this time when the traditional forms of participatory governance that often require the physical presence are not possible? There are many existing e-governance tools, but even these at this point in time might be inadequate because the access to the IT infrastructure in the slum settlements or the poor neighborhoods or in the rural context are not necessarily always there. So I'd be curious to know if there are any innovations on this area, if anyone could bring a little bit more on this. And I think perhaps Mr. Kumar could also give us a short introduction to the Reuben platform, which sounds very interesting. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we have already a list of questions to our speakers. Let's go now to the third discussant, Karim Hussein, a Senior International Development Expert and Strategic Advisor. The floor is yours. Please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? So thank you very much, Firdous. This has been an exciting discussion and highly relevant at this time. I've been privileged to be engaged in the urban-rural linkages debate with UN Habitat and other partners here since 2014, when I was at IFAD, representing IFAD in these processes, the International Fund for Agricultural Development, and then also working with FAO and with UN Habitat on other key players around the WUF7 and afterwards. So thank you very much for the opportunity to comment and feed in ideas after these fantastic case studies and experiences from India and Morocco. Emani Kumar rightly points out that COVID-19 is challenging cities around the world with regard to supply chains and with disruptive impacts on critical services, with the loss of jobs, with business closures, and the shortage of medical infrastructure. But it's also, while there's the major health impacts, there's also all the key issues relating to revenues, governance frameworks for cities and intermediate cities and local authorities, but then the issues relating to food systems, the availability of food, and all these issues relating to shorter food chains and food safety. So I think it's clearly challenging for cities, this COVID-19 outbreak and all its implications, from the health through to the economy, but also very challenging for the regions around the cities and the rural areas in particular, and their populations and their organizations, sometimes in more extreme ways than on the cities and urban areas themselves. And so rightly, I think the two speakers have been on the other, and the earlier speakers have emphasized the importance of both rural areas and their organizations and their populations, and the contributions they can make to find and provide solutions to the COVID-19 crisis, as in the same way as we emphasize the roles of intermediate and major cities in addressing these issues. I would say that this pandemic has exposed the bottlenecks in food systems in countries, and especially in urban areas where some 70% of all food produced is consumed, processed, or further distributed. However, in the rural areas, many smallholder farmers and small-scale producers depend on markets to sell their produce, and many markets have been closed, as was pointed out by the two speakers. And they buy the food that they themselves need, often in those same markets as well. So the restrictions on movement are very grave for both rural and urban dwellers. And in that context, food production, I think, plays very important roles in increasing the resilience of local people and households and their households. This leads me to think that, well, this has been highlighted by the two speakers, but innovation all along agricultural and food value chains in both urban and rural areas, at both ends in a way, is required to respond to the current seismic changes in food systems and to safeguard the livelihoods and lives of all actors along food systems and agricultural value chains. Now, the innovations that are needed, some have mentioned these already, the digital innovations, the platform, the urban platform, and so on. But there's also innovations that are required to address some of the fundamental issues around COVID-19 and food supply chains, And that includes enhanced measures to ensure food safety, maybe subsidizing access to clean water to wash hands and to wash food, and also to electricity for defined periods, and finding ways to enhance hygiene in food transportation and making available protective equipment for those working in the agricultural and food sector. Some of these things are being done, especially in the MENA region, actually, and being supported by the international community, but governments are taking their own initiative there as well. One thing I wanted to highlight that comes out of the presentations, moving quickly now, was the diversity of situations and regions that's been mentioned already. Some live with fragility, some are in stable contexts, but in both the diversity of the situations, the agroecological situation as well as economic situations and the livelihood needs of different groups of people need to be taken into account in any response to ensure that responses are tailored to local realities and the needs of vulnerable groups. This was emphasized, and I think the approaches in Morocco are very interesting here, where we were talking about the participatory approach to local governance and seeing, as we move forward in this crisis, seeing how all socioeconomic groups can be included in the response, and thereby not forgetting issues such as that are dear to the Sustainable Development Goals, such as gender equality, the role of youth, and of rural and urban-based women and men. Perhaps I would like to stop there, but maybe can I say a couple of points on
briefly? Yeah, please.
Yes.
Briefly.
So I just wanted to end by saying that there is much evidence that demonstrates the interdependencies between rural and urban areas, and we have done a lot of work on territorial approaches that can look at rural and urban areas as a whole, but understanding their distinctive nature and how they are connected to broader systems. So I wanted to emphasize that territorial approaches remain, I think, continue to be useful in addressing the broader sustainable development objectives that we're looking to achieve, and also particularly safe and inclusive food systems across space that link urban, rural, and different groups in those areas. Okay. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your reactions. Keywords we have been listening indeed all along the session. We have 13 minutes left, and we had questions to our two speakers, to which I would like to add some questions that were put on the chat. For example, to Emani Kumar, details about how the rural urban platform in India have been created, managed, and funded, also to the speakers. The central part of cities could be considered sustainable, while the challenges on sustainability are pushed toward the periphery and rural surrounding areas. Are there any ideas or solutions for improving the rural urban governance? While I think Mr. Sefiani will know how to develop this one on the cooperation. The next one will be more to Emani as well. What are the challenges and opportunities emerging with regard to local policy formulation within food distribution, organizations, and food security? And the capacity of cities are not the same, especially when urban sectoral policy is absent. So how can we deal with these issues? Let's begin by Mr. Kumar. You have 5 minutes to react. Thank you for your understanding. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for these questions. Is there any way you can show one slide of my presentation on the rural-urban platform, or you can't? Just go up. Yeah, the slide number 8.
8.
And maybe this presentation will be made available to the participants on the UN Habitat website.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Yeah, this is the Ru-Urban platform, what we have created in one of our recent projects in 2 cities, but that has been actually now taken over by the Government of India and also planning to try to expand it to various other cities. So here you can see that we have taken up the Panchayat. Panchayat is the small form of a political area, I can call it, and you have a city. So you have commissioner, additional commissioner cities, the central portion where that is the city government. Above that is maybe a district which we were looking into, because the rural area is not under the mayor actually. So rural area is under the district administrator, district collector, what we call it, and you have a city on that. So we have 3 administrative setups, or 2 administrative setups have come together. One at the district level, that is overall on top. And then you have a panchayat or a rural administrative boundary and also a city administrative boundary. So we brought all 3 of them together. And one important point I just want to tell you, it's not that new creation here in Indian system or some other cities in Asia, but what happened is it is only for if it is a water supply. If it is coming from outside, then only the district collector come into picture and say that, okay, where should we use the water? Is it for the urban areas? Is it for the rural areas? Is it for the agricultural? Is it for everything? So that is the district collector will decide on that, and that's it. That's the end of that. But what we said is that take that example and try to solve each and every issue what the city is facing. Either it can be food, it can be water, it can be the waste, because the cities also don't want to keep the waste within the city area. They want to throw it outside, where the rural areas are saying, no, we don't want your waste because you created, you keep it with you. This thing. So where this waste goes, actually, is it at the rural area? Is it the urban area? So a lot of these issues, what we started looking into and started addressing through this particular platform, which has now become like some sort of a governance model, and I think Mayor was also talking about the intermediary governance, intermediary cities also. Similar examples, I think, what there in other parts of the world also. So this particular example has really helped cities to understand what is that their issues, the rural areas what is their issues, so that maybe a common solution for both the issues has come together, and which they have implemented on that. And it also helped really for a district administration where the finances needs to be allocated. Is it to this particular issue, or is it this particular issue on that? So on the financial front also really helped the city administration or the district administration to prioritize those points and take it forward on that. And within the city government, what we said is a stakeholder communities, stakeholder committees, wherein the stakeholders will decide that, okay, today we will, this particular budget year, we will put budget into this particular activity and take it forward on that. So that's how we created this, and it's really helped into the governance issues, really helped into solving a lot of issues related to water, waste, or food, basically food traveling from rural to urban, this thing, or within the urban areas, how it can be distributed and all those things. So I don't want to go into too much details, but this information is also there on our website on the report, which can be taken it forward on that. And one of the major issues solved in few cities, and which now through national government program called Namami Gange, addressing the river Ganges issues. So all the cities on both sides of the river Ganges has looking into this particular one of those examples to solve those issues, because there are a lot of waste coming up, a lot of wastewater coming up into the Ganges river, and also addressing these type of issues. But they're looking into that and taking it forward on that. That's another point which I just want to add it on that. the water resilience point of view also, that actually, so it's not just only the COVID related or anything, but also issues related to the resilience part, water resilience, the food resilience. So all those climate related issues also it started addressing on that. So that's one thing. And I think for other examples, what I just want to make is also we looked into home gardens. I think the food, what people are talking about. So few cities have now come together and said that we want to have a garden at the backyard of each house, whatever that place is available, so that they can create their own food systems, so that they can maybe give it to others if you have more areas. So home garden facilities, which some of the cities have started, and also helping the cities, the communities to grow their own food and can be distributed into other parts of this thing on that. And if you can go one slide below, 2-3 slides below, there is another good example on the. This is about the decision support tool followed to this thing. That is okay. Next. There is one on the outcome-based financing. I think that's another good example. Which one below further? Just go down. This one actually.
We need to conclude, Mr. Kumar. Please.
Sorry. Yeah, that particular example on the outcome-based one above this is a green bond market. No, you're going down. Go up. One more. Yeah, this one. Outcome-based financing. I think you've gone 2 slides up. This particular outcome-based financing is happening in cities in Philippines, Bangladesh, Cambodia, and as well as in Indonesia. I think what is really happening is the city governments are giving money for the services to be provided by the communities, and they will make sure those people like migrants or the laborer, the poor people, what Dr. Navarro was talking about. So the services will be given it to that particular community actually. The benefits will go all the way up to that, through a chain of interventions, through maybe the community chains. So once the community gets that particular service or particular benefit, then only they will get the money actually back to that. So this service providers. So it's outcome-based financing, which has been used by various cities in Asian parts, and that is really also helping now. Because we don't know, like previously the money, I don't think that it is really going to the need, but this particular system.
We need to wrap up, Mr. Kumar. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, so that's where I'll stop, and yeah.
Sorry about that. It has been so intense and so interesting. I would spend like 2 more hours here with all of you and thinking a little bit more on all these things, but you know, it's not in my hands. And I thank you all for the commitment.
Sorry for
Mr.
taking more
Sefiani,
time.
thank you so much.
Mayor should talk more. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Sefiani, please.
Yes, Firdaus, thank you.
Briefly.
Briefly, yes, very briefly. I know. Yes. No, I think that the participatory approach is very interesting in all models of governance, especially in local governance. And we can lose that in period of crisis. So in this pandemic, in the management in particular, and now in this phase of the new normality, it's very important to work with the participatory institution that we have in the city. So in that, they have one question: is physical meeting? Yes, in the first period, we didn't have possible physical meeting, but digital meetings. But in the last weeks, with the physical meetings, but reduced numbers of representatives of our participatory institutions. We have, for example, a meeting with all parties that we have we have 4 parties, political parties in in the municipality. The opposition was with us in all the process. So during the pandemic and now preparing the future, it's very important to integrate all political parties. We have participatory councils, for example, participatory council of gender, participatory council of youth people, and participatory council of climate and sustainable development. We had meeting with all those council to analyze what we have during the pandemic and preparing the new normality, the green recovery, and the very, very good ideas that we receive from people because they know that better than us in many aspects. We are now implementing many ideas in concrete actions. And the item of informal economy and reintegrating this informal is a priority for us, for national government, but with the local government to work together. And we have many ideas, many projects in this, and many intermediate cities. We have this phenomenon of informal economy, because we need inclusivity, and we have very small companies in the intermediary cities, because we don't have big and multinational companies in small and intermediate cities. So we are working in that aspect for social and solidarity economic, because it's very, very important in the new phase of normality. And finally, I can speak about. I don't want to say about smart city as a technological city. No. It's a digital transformation. Digital transformation of city is very important, and we have now a national program for support of cities and intermediate cities. We don't have many resources for that, human resources and financial resources, but with the support of national government, we are doing that, and we have some successful actions that we have done, and we are preparing a new action for the digital transformation of the city, of municipal service, and for the economic, like to support business, local small business, to have the marketing and the business with the support of our digital transformation. So I can resume that, and the biodiversity too, because we are talking about the ecological transition, and with the health problem that we have now, health and nature and biodiversity and the good air are associated. That's how we associate that to that people understand more and more and better what's the challenges, climate challenge or the biodiversity challenge, what this linkage between rural and urban culture, economy, and all. And finally, I can say the intermediate cities in intermediate city live now more than a third of urban population in the world, but the potential of this intermediate cities in the world is bigger and bigger, and the pandemic showed us that is a reality, not only a theory. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor Sefiani. Yeah, I have so many takeaways that I'm able to make a new discussions only myself and talk for 20 minutes more. I would like to sincerely thank everyone that has been participating. It has been incredibly enriching and interesting. The first part on the global management and the global positioning of institutions and the global point of view and strategies that are being built, and how does this or not align with what is going on the ground level and in the people's life every day, the daily life. So I think we are done by today. I would like to have the last words from my colleagues, Camilo or Florence or Thomas, to close the session. And I cannot begin talking. If I begin talking, I will not stop. I would have so many things to say. It's fantastic. Thank you. I'm deeply grateful, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Firdaus. This has been a very interesting session. I just want to ask if Remy are you available just to deliver a couple of remarks and close the session? If not, I can just continue.
Just continue, Camilo.
Okay, thank you, Remy. So yeah, so this is we have come to the end of the session. Thank you very much to all the people that have connected today. This is the first session, as I mentioned, of the Policy, Legislation and Governance section. I'm just going to share with you and announce our future webinars. So the next one is going to take place on Friday, July 19. The topic will be the post-COVID city, lessons for the future in law and development. And this webinar is jointly organized with the Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. And then our next session will be on July 14. We are going to touch on the topic of human mobility, migration, and territorial responses. So you will receive the information soon. Also, would like to say that all the questions that you have been posted in the chat today, we are going to consider that for future webinars and also for our work as an input, and we will try to respond all of them. So yeah, this is all for today. Thank you and bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.